if you're gifted enough, you can get to a decently high level just off a raw brute strength without much technique. But then it's more so to prevent injuries because, like I said, if you can fine tune things and find your optimal leverages and technique, that's going to make you less beat up.
Well, there's a point which we'll get to later where I think you having to kind of back away from the powerlifting aspect for you to be able to pass, the Body Bears program actually ended up making a huge fucking difference in what your total was.
Oh yeah.
So I think you've kind of stumbled across just throughout your training timeline, a style of periodization over an annual period of time that works very well for you.
Yeah.
And putting it together correctly, like with this phase you're going into now, it's more technically oriented instead of what most people would do is they would come out of the meet, and I know you see this because you probably talk to people that do this.
Mm-hmm.
They come out of the meet and they're like, man, they're going to try to find like they're weak off the chest because of the bench, right? So they say, I'm weak off the chest. I need to start doing heavy dumbbells right away, right? Instead of trying to focusing on the technical aspect of why is this happening? It seems like you went first into what technical things need to be addressed. Mm-hmm. And then once those are figured out, then what physical capacities need to be developed to reinforce that technical aspect. Is that fair to say that's kind of how you think through it?
Yeah, exactly, Dave. Because, I've been doing this since...
a decade.
Yeah, basically a decade. My first few years, it was hit and miss because I started mid to late 2013. I joined the Marines 2015. So my first 3 to 4 years, training wasn't very consistent, but I'd say I was a powerlifter even back then. But yeah, it's like I've seen so many people come and go, and it's like if you're gifted enough, you can get to a decently high level just off a raw brute strength without much technique. But then it's more so to prevent injuries because, like I said, if you can fine tune things and find your optimal leverages and technique, that's gonna in the long run make you less beat up. Like if you're deadlifting, and this is what happened to me, like. I had a back injury because I didn't know how to brace properly, and I was hunching too much through my back, and I didn't know how to keep my lats in my pocket. But that made me realize I need to change this. And then I remember I went online to try to figure out what the problem was, and I found those things out. And it was kind of a blessing in disguise, tweaking my back. It wasn't a horrible injury, but yeah, if I didn't change anything, probably would have kept hurting myself. Wouldn't have got any stronger. Like I got to a decently high level, like. I got to a 700 plus pound deadlift with pretty atrocious form, but like maybe I would have done 800 one day, but I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I didn't take a few steps back and figure out, okay, what can I do better? Cause I'm not satisfied with where I'm at. So what do I need to like figure out in order to improve?
Yeah. So your first meet was in 2013, but I want to go back a little bit further than that, just from something that you said last night, which was really interesting to me. So you're born in California, you're raised in Oregon. So when was that change? When was that move?
So I was living in Stockton, California. I was born in Clovis, which is right outside Stockton. We moved when I was in the winter break when I was in 5th grade. So that was, that's so far back. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But I've been in Oregon longer than I've been in Cali, in terms of my life. So yeah, it was drastic. Like Stockton was way different, just whole different kind of environment. Oregon was I love Oregon because of the nature. There's a lot of great places to hike and walk and do trails. And growing up, my house was like a half mile from a park, and I would love to go to the park. Sometimes I'd ride my bike with my brother, or I'd go on runs there, or there was this big steep hill, and I would run up the hill, do hill repeats. Cause I remember I did football from 6th grade all the way till 1 year into college. And back then, I heard a story. Walter Payton used to run up that really steep hill, and that's why his legs are so big and strong. So that's like as a kid, I would run up hills, not every day, but pretty routinely, especially in the summer when I didn't have much to do. I'd play basketball with my brother. There was a elementary school, also another walk, half a mile in the other direction. So we were always out doing something. Like we would play video games back then, but I was always just very hyper, almost ADHD like.
So it was football, track, and baseball, I believe.
Football, track, basketball, baseball.
So full year.
Yeah, basketball and baseball were more early on. I did those once again, very young. I stopped basketball my freshman year of high school. I did baseball up to like 5th grade, and I did track from 6th grade to 12th grade. I did football from 5th grade to when I was 18, a freshman in college.
That's just really remind that. I don't know why this reminded me of that. Somebody said last night that fucking made me actually laugh out loud was when you were telling those kids that, you know, I don't have this fucked up background like most people. Like, you know, I grew up okay. You know, my parents were good.
I don't have this inner rage. You know, this fucked up like. Because like I joked to you, I was like, white middle class suburban neighborhood. Like I did sports, you know.
It's all good.
I didn't, like I said, I never did drugs or anything like that. So I wasn't in trouble with the law. Like, really couldn't. I don't have anything I could look back on and be like, oh, that fucking sucked.
You can't tap into any of that, right?
Yeah.
Where the you said last night that your dad didn't let you lift any weights until you were 14, but you were doing body weight squats and lunges and stuff like that. So what did that look? First off, I assume you're doing those just to be better at football.
Yeah.
And conditioning.
And it's not that he didn't let me lift weights, but we got a little weight set in my garage once I was around 13. But up until that point, I just did body weight stuff. So I would do a lot of body weight squats, lunges. I did sit-ups. I would just get this this pull-up attachment that you could hold your feet under, put it against the door or against a crack in the wall, and I would do sit-ups on the ground. I would do push-ups. Back then, I was doing push-ups.
Yeah.
It was all shoulders. You know, I didn't. Sure. Chest was one of the hardest things for me. It was like one of the last body parts for me to figure out how to cue right because all throughout my youth, I did push-ups literally the wrong freaking way.